Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. Tyreek Hill's time in Miami has always been a fascinating roller coaster, a blend of electrifying on-field performances and controversial headlines off it. When the Dolphins traded for him, they knew they were getting more than just speed and touchdowns. They were inheriting a persona, a spotlight, and everything that comes with it. For a while, it looked like that gamble had paid off handsomely. In 2023, Hill didn't just shine. He broke records, torching defenses across the league and rewriting the Dolphins' history books with the most receiving yards in a single season. Miami was proud to call him their own, and fans had every reason to believe they were watching one of the most dynamic talents of his generation, wearing teal and orange with pride. But the NFL is a league with a short memory. Glory doesn't last forever, and star power is always vulnerable to the passage of time, especially when it's combined with declining stats and rising off-field distractions. Fast forward just 1 year, and the conversation around Hill has shifted. He still showed flashes of brilliance in 2024, but 959 receiving yards is not what Miami expected after watching him dominate just a season prior. It wasn't just a small dip, either. Nearly 30 other players in the league outpaced him in receiving yardage. And when you're one of the highest-paid receivers in the game, that kind of drop-off doesn't go unnoticed. The shift in perception has inevitably led to whispers and speculation, and recently, those murmurs took on a more concrete tone when Dolphins general manager Chris Grier made a candid admission. He wasn't shopping Hill. He didn't say the team was done with him. But he did let slip one intriguing detail. If another team were to come knocking with a compelling trade package, specifically 2 first-round picks, then Miami would be willing to listen. That revelation, subtle as it may seem, was enough to set the NFL world buzzing. It was like throwing a spark into dry brush. What would it mean if the Dolphins actually parted ways with Tyreek Hill? Could it happen? And who would be bold enough to pull the trigger? At first glance, Grier's proposal might seem like a long shot. 2 first-rounders for a player coming off a down year, who also finds himself in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons, including a recent domestic dispute involving his wife Keita, doesn't exactly scream easy sell. The league has grown more cautious in recent years when it comes to trading away premium draft assets, especially for players over 30 who come with baggage. The days of splashy, blockbuster trades just for name recognition are mostly behind us. These days, GMs want value, they want long-term potential, and they want to avoid drama wherever possible. Still, this is Tyreek Hill we're talking about. The man who once chewed up defensive backs for breakfast. The guy whose name still puts fear into defensive coordinators when he's healthy and focused. That kind of talent doesn't just disappear overnight. And if there's a coach or GM out there who believes that Hill has another peak season or 2 left in the tank, then suddenly, Grier's asking price doesn't seem quite so outrageous. Especially for a team that believes it's one piece away from a Super Bowl run. And that's where things get even more intriguing. Because while Miami may not be actively making calls, they're not exactly slamming the door shut, either. Grier's message was clear: make us an offer we can't refuse. The Dolphins haven't had much of a presence in the first round of the draft lately. In fact, they've only made 1 first-round pick in the last 3 years, and that was when they grabbed defensive end Chop Robinson at number 21 overall in the 2024 draft. For a franchise that has tried to build through savvy trades and free agency, there's a certain appeal in the idea of restocking the cupboard with premium draft capital. They do hold the number 13 overall pick in the upcoming 2025 draft, so it's not like they're empty-handed. But imagine the possibilities if they had 2 first-rounders at their disposal. That kind of flexibility can change the trajectory of an entire franchise. It opens doors to trade up, to grab multiple elite prospects, to address long-term needs at key positions, and to reshape the identity of the team. The Dolphins are on the cusp of something. Whether it's contention or a soft reset remains to be seen. But the decision on Hill could swing the pendulum either way. There's also the human element to consider. Tyreek Hill has always been a lightning rod, both admired and criticized in equal measure. His explosiveness on the field is undeniable, but so too are the controversies that seem to follow him. For a team like Miami, which is trying to build a stable, winning culture, the question becomes, How much are they willing to tolerate in the name of production? And at what point does the balance tip? Every locker room has its personalities. Every elite team has players who push boundaries and break molds. But there's a difference between being a maverick and being a distraction. Greer's comments suggest that the Dolphins are at least considering where Hill fits on that spectrum now. Not pushing him out the door, but certainly not chaining it shut behind him either. What remains unclear is whether any of the other 31 teams are willing to step into that conversation. It only takes one desperate contender, one bold front office, one franchise convinced that Hill can be the final piece to their championship puzzle. And when that kind of belief takes hold, the draft picks can start to fly. So the question lingers in the air like a deep ball hanging in the sun-drenched skies of Hard Rock Stadium. Will someone make the call? Will someone bet on the Cheeto one more time? And if they do, will Miami answer? For now, Tyreek Hill remains a Dolphin, but the door has been left open. Just a crack. Enough for possibilities to slip through. Enough to make fans, media, and rival executives wonder what's next. In the ever-spinning carousel of the NFL, the biggest moves often start with the quietest comments. Greer didn't yell it from the rooftops, but his message was clear. And now, everyone's listening. Let the speculation begin. Still with us? Then show some love. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments. What's your take on the Fins this week? In the world of the NFL, few things ever catch fans completely off guard. But when a monumental trade like this happens, it shakes the entire league. And today, we're diving into one of the most shocking and unexpected moves in recent NFL history. Aaron Rodgers, the future Hall of Fame quarterback, has officially swapped the green and white of the New York Jets for the vibrant aqua and orange of the Miami Dolphins. Let's break down everything about this seismic shift, how it came to be, and what it means for Rodgers, the Dolphins, and the Jets moving forward. We all knew that Rodgers' time with the Jets was supposed to be a new chapter in his career after the tumultuous end to his long, legendary run with the Green Bay Packers. After months of rumors, endless trade speculation, and some dramatic back and forth with Jets management, Rodgers finally suited up for New York, leaving Packers fans heartbroken and Jets fans hopeful that they finally had a quarterback to push them over the top. The stage was set, but just when we thought we had it all figured out, the rug got pulled out from under us. Miami, the Dolphins. If you told anyone a few months ago that Rodgers would be leaving the Jets for the Dolphins, they would have laughed. It didn't make sense on paper, and frankly, it seemed like a wild fantasy. Miami had their own franchise quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa, someone they were still banking on for the future. Yet, somehow, someway, this trade has happened. So how did it go down? First, let's talk about what this trade means for the Miami Dolphins. The last time they had a quarterback as iconic as Aaron Rodgers was, well, honestly, never. Miami's history is rich with talent, but the quarterback position has been a bit of a revolving door since the days of Dan Marino. But now they've got a guy who is not only one of the most talented quarterbacks to ever play the game, but also someone who could completely transform their offense. Imagine Rodgers connecting with the speed and explosiveness of Tyreek Hill, the playmaking ability of Jalen Waddle, and the overall depth of the Dolphins' offensive weaponry. It's a dream scenario for Dolphins fans. You've got a quarterback who can make every throw, read defenses at an elite level, and has the experience to lead a team deep into the playoffs. But here's the thing. The Dolphins weren't exactly struggling with Tua under center. Sure, the injuries are a huge concern, and the long-term viability of Tua as the team's QB1 has been in question ever since his concussion woes last season. However, the team saw flashes of brilliance with Tua, especially when he was healthy. That being said, Rodgers coming in changes everything. The Dolphins now have a Super Bowl-caliber quarterback who brings instant credibility to the franchise. It's no longer just about the potential, with Rodgers at the helm. It's about immediate contention for a championship. But let's not kid ourselves here. There's a big question surrounding this trade. Why did the Jets let him go? This is the part that really adds an unexpected twist to the whole thing. The Jets were supposed to be the team to finally make a deep playoff run with Rodgers. They were expected to challenge for the AFC East title, and many analysts even penciled them in as Super Bowl contenders. So why the sudden shift? Well, from the Jets' perspective, the situation was complicated. Rodgers' time with New York was tumultuous. He was often seen trying to adjust to a new system, battling with injuries, and at times, looking like a man not quite in sync with his new team. The Jets were hoping Rodgers could bring his magic, but the reality was a bit different. There were issues with the offensive line, the running game didn't have the consistency it needed, and the defense, though elite, could only do so much. There was also that sense that Rodgers wasn't entirely happy in New York, and that, at some point, the relationship would sour. Add in the fact that Rodgers made it clear he wasn't keen on the Jets' management or some of the players in the locker room, and it became obvious that this was a situation that was not going to last. So, the Jets pulled the trigger on a deal that sends Rodgers to Miami, hoping to reset their own trajectory. For the Jets, the trade marks the end of one era and the beginning of another. They now have to figure out who their next quarterback will be. Will they look to the draft? Will they explore another trade? Whatever they choose, they'll have a lot of work to do to fill the void left by one of the most talented quarterbacks to ever play the game. But let's not forget the other side of this. What happens to Tua in all this? Well, as of now, Tua remains the starter for the Dolphins. But, with the arrival of Rodgers, Tua has to prove he can stay healthy and show that he's the long-term answer for Miami. If he does, this could turn into one of the best quarterback rooms in the league, with Rodgers mentoring Tua and helping him develop into an even better player. That being said, Tua has to perform at a high level right away, because there's no question that Rodgers' presence is a big signal from the Dolphins' front office. They're in win-now mode. This trade also raises another interesting question. How will Rodgers fit in Miami's offense, which has become one of the most dynamic in the NFL under head coach Mike McDaniel? McDaniel's scheme is based on fast-paced, motion-heavy play calling, designed to take advantage of a quarterback with a quick release and elite arm strength. And there's no one in the NFL who fits that mold better than Rodgers. This offense is built for a quarterback like him, someone who thrives in a system that emphasizes quick decisions, deep ball accuracy, and elite pocket presence. The pairing of Rodgers and McDaniel is one that could be frightening for the rest of the AFC. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's also consider the roadblocks. Rodgers, at 41, is certainly not in the prime of his career. There are real questions about how long he can maintain an elite level of play, especially in such a competitive conference. He's had injury issues in the past, and with the demanding nature of the NFL, it's unclear how much longer he can perform at an MVP level. There's also the question of chemistry with his new teammates. While Rodgers has a reputation for being a bit of a diva at times, he also has the ability to make his teammates better. That said, this isn't a sure thing, and there's still some risk involved in Miami's gamble on the veteran quarterback. Ultimately, though, this move is one that has the potential to completely shake up the AFC and change the landscape of the NFL. With Rodgers leading the Dolphins, the entire AFC East becomes one of the most intriguing divisions to watch in 2025. Can Rodgers bring the Dolphins their first Super Bowl in franchise history? Will the Jets be able to bounce back and find their next QB? How does Tua respond to the challenge of competing with a legend for his starting job? All of these questions make the 2025 NFL season one of the most anticipated in recent memory. So, there you have it. Aaron Rodgers is no longer a Jet. He's a Miami Dolphin, and this move could have massive implications for both teams, their divisions, and the league as a whole. Whether you're a Dolphins fan, a Jets fan, or just an NFL enthusiast, this trade has all the drama, intrigue, and excitement that make the NFL such a captivating spectacle. Stay tuned because this is far from over, and the fallout from this move is going to be one of the biggest stories of the season. Keep your eyes on Miami, because with Rodgers at the helm, things are about to get very, very interesting. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up.